Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and we'll be continuing my Dungeon Month coverage of Indie Game Friday with Dungeons & Darkness. Developed by Yamiuchi Project and published by AGM Playism, Dungeons & Darkness was released on September 30th, 2016, and it is available on Steam for $9.99 US as of this recording. A demo is also available on the store page, which is generally kept updated with the latest version, at least as of this recording, and the footage for this review was taken from this demo. Dungeons & Darkness is a dungeon crawler, although it is a free-roaming, first-person solo hero experience, where a lone character delves into a dungeon in order to solve various quests. The starting storyline is simple enough. There's a growing darkness, and legend tells of some dungeons that might be the source of it. Outside one of these dungeons, a town develops, with the intention of heading into this dungeon to explore it and clear it out. Once you get into town, there is a main quest series and a number of subquests that will have you going into this dungeon again and again, slowly unlocking more and more of it. After the intro, you create a character by selecting from a number of pre-existing classes. These classes give you a guide as to what each does, mostly defined by their base ability scores, as well as their expected ability score growth. There are only 4 ability scores: Strength, Dexterity, Intelligence, and Constitution, the effects of which are listed at the bottom of the screen and should be familiar with anybody familiar with old-school Dungeons & Dragons. Each class starts with a set score in each of these abilities, with the growth rate ranked from A to E, with A being the fastest and E being the slowest. Classes include a Knight, which focuses on defense, a Fighter, which focuses on physical offense, a Mage that focuses on casting, a Rogue that focuses on ranged and agility, and a Commoner that just gets low stats all around, for a real challenge. The game has 2 major sections. The first is the typical town screen, with a number of different subscreens. The tavern is where you accept and complete quests. You can get a sense for how many subsections there are in the dungeon, because the quests in particular areas have all been listed together on that section's screen. There are main quests that advance the story and side quests that can be used to gather gear and experience. Some of these quests may have sequels, unlocking further quests down the chain as you complete each area. You can only possess one quest at a time, though you can abandon them and select another if it proves too challenging. The quests are rated by difficulty, so you can have some idea of what you're getting into before accepting them. The inn is where you can adjust your skills, as well as rest, level up, and save. Skills are granted via books you can purchase, with each purchase increasing the price of the next book. Once you read a book, you can then allocate a point to one of several skill scores. Individual skill combinations grant your character additional abilities, and you must meet the minimum score in the particular combination of skills in order to unlock that ability. You can also decorate your inn room with items that you find in the dungeon or purchase at the item shop. And resting will grant you the chance of leveling up if you have enough evil souls, which function as experience. Resting also saves the game state automatically. The collector is where you can turn the various broken items that you find in the dungeon for money, while the tool shop allows you to purchase various useful tools, ranging from potions to skill books to satchels that allow you to carry more inventory or equip more items. You can even buy traps to lay out on the ground, although I didn't actually try that one out. Finally, you can check your inventory and status from most of these screens, where you can see what items you have on hand and how they affect your skills. Different items can have different effects, even if they have the same name, so it's useful to check carefully of all the details on all the new items that you manage to find before you equip them. The next major section is the dungeon crawling, and comprises most of the game. When you enter the dungeon, you select which subsection you enter based on the quest that you have, and there are several subsections that you will unlock as you proceed through the game. Exploring the dungeon is easy enough. You can walk around with the standard WASD keys. You have a lantern that you can light for dark places, which honestly barely helps, but it is somewhat of a help. You can left-click to attack, or use your readied spell, right-click to shield bash, or use a secondary attack if you've got a two-handed weapon equipped. Other items in your quick slots can be accessed at will, and you can enter your inventory, but can't switch out items if a monster is targeting you. Fortunately, a pretty handy little icon declares when a monster is focusing on you. Certain monsters have weaknesses to various attacks, be they weapons or spells, and certain weapons can have multiple attack modes, so it can be extremely useful to have a couple different weapons equipped just to handle the different monster weaknesses you're likely to encounter. Some attacks and spellcasting take a moment to charge up, during which you'll hold whatever mouse button down until a circle fills up. Usually this is done for spells and things that require concentration. One thing to note is that once you've committed to an attack, you can't move around until the animation is complete, and there seems to be a chance for your attack to miss anyway, so it gives combat a bit of a clunky feel. But I've played enough old school style games it wasn't that off-putting. Still, it's something to remember if you're used to more modern systems. After an enemy is killed, they can drop certain items that you can automatically collect by going over them, as well as give you a certain number of evil souls. Evil souls work like experience. If you have enough of them, you level up. When you die, you lose them, but if you respawn in the dungeon and get back to where you died, you can pick them up again. One thing that I encountered was that respawning in the dungeon tended to make it so my mouse wasn't tied to the window anymore, and since the mouse is used for steering, this quickly meant that I was clicking on windows outside of the game window, thus having a really hard time with things. Returning to town instead cleared this up, but returning to town cost you all your souls and any progress on the quest that you've made, short of finishing the quest you're on altogether. I don't know if this is because I was playing the game in windowed mode or not, but it really does need to be fixed. Indeed, there were a number of bugs, from enemy pathing to being fired at through walls to interface issues like Japanese text being left in at least one of the tutorial messages, which tended to indicate that the game needs a lot of work still. As of this recording, it's currently on its third major version, and from what I can gather, that third version changed a lot of things and more issues were introduced. Fortunately, it looks like the developer is very active. Unfortunately, this means the game feels like it's in early access even though it's not. There are some performance issues above and beyond what can be accounted for with my rig, and some of the animations really do need a little bit of work. The user interface definitely could use a unified design makeover. Graphically, the game is alright, although there's no reason why the limited graphics and models in the dungeon as are should perform at the rate that they do. The music can get on the nerves after a while as well, but fortunately you can switch it off. So make no mistake, this game is a flawed game, yet the core of it is actually really solid. It's a first-person solo dungeon crawler built on a solid foundation, it just needs a lot more polishing, which the developer seems perfectly willing to do. I can only recommend it if you're willing to put up with some rough edges. It does manage to capture a fairly decent solo dungeon crawling experience aside from that. It's yet another game that I may have to keep an eye on because the potential really is there. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'll leave a link to the game below as always. For now, this has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Dungeons & Darkness. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you've got feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. Until next time, take care and goodbye.